The Little Bird Who Forgot How to Fly. Once upon a time, there was a little bird who was almost ready to leave the nest. She could sing, she could collect sticks, she could catch worms, she knew to look out for cats, and most importantly, she could fly. Her parents had taught her everything she needed to know, and they knew that it was almost time to let her go out into the world to build a nest of her own. They were very proud of their smart little baby bird. But then, one day, there was a terrible accident. The little bird was down below her favorite tree searching for worms and dodging cats when suddenly a branch fell from above. The branch hit her on the head, and she didn't even have time to let out a squeak before she was knocked out cold. The little bird's dad, who had been watching from a nearby rooftop, saw what had happened. He quickly swooped down, picked her up in his beak, and flew to the hospital. The little bird slept for 3 days and 3 nights while her parents watched over her and worried, which is a very long time for a bird to sleep. On the morning of the 4th day, she finally woke up. But when they got back to their nest, it was clear that something was wrong. Her mother sang her favorite song, but she didn't join in. In fact, she didn't make a sound. Her dad flapped his wings, which meant it was time to fly down and collect some juicy worms for breakfast. But the little bird remained still. You see, while she was sleeping, she had forgotten. She had forgotten how to sing, she had forgotten how to collect sticks, she had forgotten how to catch worms, and she had forgotten how to fly. Her parents realized that their little bird wouldn't be leaving the family nest anytime soon. That once again, they would be her caretakers. And so their new, yet old way of life began. They looked after their little bird just as they had done before. And they tried to reteach her all the things that little birds need to know. But things were different this time. The little bird struggled to pick up the skills she had learned so easily as a chick. And worse, it seemed like her whole personality had changed. She was irritable, she was tired, she didn't want to see her friends. It was like she wanted to climb back inside her shell and cut herself off from those who loved and cared for her. Now they both loved their little bird dearly, and raising her had brought them enormous joy. But they were older now. They were tired. They didn't have the same patience they had the first time round. Caring for her put enormous strain on their relationship, and it became clear that they couldn't do this alone. That their little bird would need ongoing care from outside the nest, professional therapy and rehabilitation, now and in the future. One of the hardest things to cope with was that their little bird, who acted so differently, looked just the same as she always had. She looked fine. Sometimes they even wondered if it was all an act, whether she was just lazy. And they would lose their temper. But they would quickly remember that it wasn't her fault, and then they would feel incredibly guilty. Because while the branch that hit the little bird's head hadn't caused any lasting damage on the outside, the inside was a different story. The little bird's injury may have been invisible, but it was very, very real. It was the same injury that afflicts over 500,000 American children every single year. The little bird had suffered a traumatic brain injury. Traumatic brain injury is known as the invisible injury. Because just like the little bird, individuals with a brain injury often have no outward signs. But perhaps it should also be known as the secret injury, because it may surprise you to learn that brain injury is not just one cause of disability in children in the United States, it is the leading cause. Each year, an average of 62,000 American children sustain serious brain injuries that require hospitalization. Some will make a full cognitive recovery, but for many, their lives will be changed forever. Children living with traumatic brain injury can experience problems with memory, concentration, and communication. They may also suffer from anxiety, depression, and mood swings. And for tens of thousands of American parents, their child's brain injury means a reversion to the role of full-time caregiver. Traumatic brain injury impacts the daily lives of over 5 million Americans and their families. It's time that more was done to raise awareness and to support those living with TBI, their families, and caregivers, and to help our little birds fly again.